You don't even have the right to stand at his grave." The words, cold, sharp, and full of venom, hit Linda Carter like a slap as she stood at her father's freshly dug grave, clutching a yellowed envelope in her trembling hand. Scrawled across the front in his familiar handwriting were the words, "For my daughter." Behind her, the raw earth, the headstone bearing James Carter's name, and the final dates of a life cut far too short. In front of her, her older sister, Catherine, lips pressed into a thin, furious line, and Catherine's husband, Mark, whose eyes refused to meet Linda's, his silence louder than any accusation. Linda hadn't expected warmth. Not after everything. But she never imagined being banished from her own father's funeral, denied even a moment to say goodbye. And now this letter. Left for her. On the last day of his life. She said nothing. Just crushed the envelope in her fist and walked away, past the whispers, the clinking champagne flutes, and her Aunt Ellen's bitter remark, "Well, I guess she's happy now?" She drove home in silence, back to the old house where she'd once swung on backyard swings and chased fireflies in the summer dusk. Now it was just dust, broken shutters, and ghosts. Alone in the empty kitchen, she tore open the letter. And everything she thought she knew about her family began to crumble. Linda had always been the younger one. Not just in age, but in status. Catherine was the golden child, class president, homecoming queen, a high-powered attorney, the perfect wife, mother of 2 obedient kids. Linda? An artist with no steady income, divorced at 34, no children, an apartment cluttered with unsold paintings and student loan debt that never seemed to shrink. The 8-year age gap wasn't just a number, it was a canyon. Catherine left for college when Linda was 10. When she came back, she was already an adult with rules, opinions, and a quiet authority over their father that Linda could never touch. Their mother died young. Linda was only 15. After that, their father retreated. He worked late, came home silent, slept on the couch, eyes avoiding his daughters. Linda thought he just didn't know how to handle a grieving teenager. But Catherine always knew better. She ran the house, made the decisions, chose where Linda went for summer, who she dated, even what she wore to family dinners. "You're too emotional," Catherine would say. "It scares people, especially men." The first time Linda brought a boyfriend home, Catherine grilled him about his income, health insurance, and retirement plan. He never came back. Linda didn't bother explaining he was a poet, not a banker. She just stopped bringing anyone home at all. And her father? He stayed silent. He always did when the sisters clashed. As if afraid to pick a side. Or maybe he'd already chosen one long ago. It all started with the will. James Carter died suddenly, stroke at work. No warning. No long illness. Just collapsed and never woke up. Catherine arranged the funeral. Efficient. Polished. Emotionless, like everything else in her life. Linda didn't hear about her father's death from her sister. She heard it from Aunt Ellen, their neighbor, who'd once bought her a prom dress. Catherine hadn't even called. Just sent a formal notice through a lawyer. "You may attend the funeral if you wish, but don't expect to be involved in estate matters." "He left everything to me," Catherine said coldly on the 4th day after the burial, when Linda finally showed up at their childhood home. The house, the savings, the car, everything. "Why?" Linda asked, though she already knew the answer. She'd heard it in every missed call, every stiff dinner, every time her father asked about Catherine, but barely glanced her way. "Because I took care of him." "And you? You haven't even called in 2 years." That wasn't true. Linda had called, but he rarely answered. And when he did, the conversations lasted less than a minute. "I'm just tired," he'd whispered once. "And me?" Linda whispered now. "I'm his daughter too." Catherine's smile was razor-thin, laced with contempt, and something else. Fear, maybe. "The real daughter is the one who stays. You left. A long time ago." Back in her apartment, Linda finally opened the envelope. "Linda, if you're reading this, you came to my funeral despite everything. Or Catherine gave you this letter. More likely, she didn't. So you must have found it on my desk. I left it there for you. Forgive me. For everything. After your mother died, I didn't know how to be with you. You looked so much like her in your eyes, your laugh, your stubbornness. Every time I saw you, I saw her. And it hurt too much. Catherine. She was easier. She didn't remind me of what I'd lost. So I let her take over. Because it was easier to stay silent than to fight. But I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to show it. The house, that old place, it's yours. Remember when we planted that apple tree in the backyard? You were 7. You called it your tree of happiness. I kept the deed. It's in the box under my desk, the real will. Not the one Catherine read. She doesn't know. I never told her. Because I was afraid she'd take this from you too. Forgive me for my cowardice. Dad. Linda cried, really cried, for the first time in years. No shame. No holding back. She cried for her father. For her mother. For the little girl who just wanted to be seen. She didn't rush to a lawyer. She waited. Watched. Within a week, Catherine had moved into their father's house. Brought the kids. Repainted the walls. Threw out old furniture, even talked about cutting down the apple tree. It's ruining the lawn, she'd said. Linda showed up the day the landscapers arrived. What are you doing here? Catherine asked, annoyed, not surprised. I live here, Linda said calmly. The house is mine. I have the paperwork. Signed. Notarized. Dated 2 months before Dad died. Catherine went pale. Mark stepped onto the porch, frowning. This is a joke. No. It's the truth. He wouldn't leave it to you. Catherine nearly screamed. You did nothing for him. You weren't even there. And you? Linda asked softly. You were there to control. To decide who deserved his love and who didn't. But Dad, he saw more than you think. The fight was explosive. Catherine threatened lawsuits. Mark tried to keep it civil. But Linda didn't back down. For the first time in her life, she held her ground. She wasn't doing it for the money. Not even for revenge, though the urge was fierce, to throw them out the way they'd thrown her away. But she realized something deeper. Revenge isn't about punishing someone else. It's about freeing yourself. So she offered a deal. The house stays with me. You can take everything else, the savings, the car, the antiques. But you leave the apple tree. And you don't come back without my permission. Catherine stared at her like she was a stranger. You've changed. No, Linda said. I've just finally started living. 6 months passed. Linda opened a small art gallery in an old downtown district. Not for profit, for voice. For truth. For healing. Every morning, she waters the apple tree. This year, it bloomed for the first time, pearly white blossoms, fragile but fearless. She doesn't talk to Catherine. But sometimes, letters arrive from her nieces and nephews, school drawings, birthday cards. Linda writes back. Sends hand-painted notes. Not because she's forgiven. But because she refuses to let the pain pass to the next generation. And at her father's grave? Fresh flowers. Always. Not from Catherine. Not from Aunt Ellen. From her. Because now she knows. Her father's love was silent, but it was real. And sometimes, that's enough to begin again.